Okay. Yeah, here, because I have to tell you, here we go. Rockin' body, pretty face, attitude bigger than the San Andres. It's troubling when she's rumbling, so give her wide berth. Can't help but love her, she's the salt of the earth. Now I wasn't expecting a full-fledged passion assault. Yeah, and it's all her fault. When she's around, I can't help myself. Want to hold on tight to her continental shelf. Felt like dancing, so I asked her who knew I was flirting with a natural disaster. Park my truck on a dusty trail, start shaking like a 7 on the Richter scale. She's laying underneath, but she's a gift from above. Yeah, she's my earthquake love. Yeah, there was some pretty good singing. Okay.
Welcome to the Framework Podcast program. This is John, one of the hosts of Framework, and with me, as always, is the other host of Framework, Al.
That's me. And with us both is our special guest, Chris.
Hey, fellas, how you doing?
Not bad at all. Welcome back, Chris. That's 3 times for you.
Yeah,
part of the crew now.
Three-timers club. I'm loving it.
The hat trick.
And we are today discussing the early career, maybe the whole career really, but mostly I want to focus on the 1980s film career of Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of the great miracle runs in the history of Hollywood is my argument. This is a guy who is kind of, the classic immigrant story, of course, famously, as he will tell you himself, started from nothing and gained everything and became one of the biggest movie stars in the world. And in my opinion, in history, sure.
Yeah.
I think he's done this better than just about anybody else that is kind of at his status. And when I say his status, I kind of mean gigantic movie star who can't really make a movie without the movie being about him, who doesn't deliver performances so much as he plays himself very winningly. This is like Will Smith, Tom Cruise, that kind of person. And I don't think any of them have done it as well as Arnold, which is weird because he might be the worst actor of all of them. It doesn't matter.
I don't know about might. I think like Tom Cruise, Will Smith, those guys have like an Ali or Born on the 4th of July in them. Where
they sure do.
Arnold does not have that.
Arnold knows not to do that.
It would have been Crusade. That would have been the one right there.
Well, yeah, I of course am a big fan of Crusade, the unmade Paul Verhoeven Schwarzenegger film. That I don't know. I've read the script. I don't know if it would have netted him the Oscar.
No, probably not. No,
but
I mean, if you look at how, I mean, not for acting, but how Gibson.
The Academy loves Verhoeven.
Well, I mean, if you look at something like Braveheart doing so well at that point at the Academy, who knows? They were kind of into those kind of movies more back in those days. Braveheart, Gladiator. So who knows? Maybe.
It was definitely a play at that money, at that kind of film. So that was what was kind of exciting about it. Even if it wasn't going to be an Oscar film, it would have been like a respectable film for Arnold. And that alone makes me wish it to happen. Yeah.
That can't be true if Verhoeven was making it.
Well, it's also
he does not do that.
Giant middle finger to religion is the other part of that. Like that's
yeah, and the Academy love that.
Yeah. Nothing they want.
That would be fun. But he's not. I mean, Braveheart. I don't think you can compare even to something like Braveheart. Like you put Arnold in Braveheart, and it is a comedy. It's.
But I think
he's trying the Scottish accent.
Mel is sincere about all that shit.
Right, but I think if you could have tailored him in that kind of a role, obviously not William Wallace, but that type of a film, I think he would have rocked it. He would have rocked it.
He would have rocked it for sure. They wouldn't have nominated for an Oscar, but he would have succeeded. No. He would have been effective in the role because he's generally effective in the role. Like this is a guy who knows how to cast himself. He knows what roles are appropriate for Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's why he had such a good run.
Yeah, I thought his genius was that he knew he wasn't a great actor, so he aligned himself with great directors who knew how to make him look good, and that was his whole genius. I mean, going from McTiernan, Verhoeven, Walter Hill, and then even when he started out and doing comedies, Ivan Reitman, who was the biggest comedy director at that point. I mean, that
It's the
was
right one
James
for him.
Cameron's a big one in there too.
Of course, yeah, Cameron also, and just that was his smartest play. I mean, that to me, that was always the big difference between him and Stallone. Whereas Stallone, he wanted complete control over everything, even when he wasn't the director. That's why he was working with George Cosmatos, and he was working with Peter McDonald, because he wanted directors that he basically had the final say. Whereas Arnold was like, look, I'm going to trust you. I know you're talented. Make me look like a badass. Make me look funny, and everything's going to be golden.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is certainly a difference between those two. That Arnold was aware of and stayed in his lane and had a, put me in, coach attitude. And Stallone, I mean, understandably, given how he came on the scene in Rocky, like always fancied himself as more of an all around creative type. That he was the muscle bound action star, but he is also a director and a writer in his own right, and so he
Right.
wanted to like flex those muscles as well. And it's weird to cite humility as being a strength of Arnold's, but he at least had the self-awareness to be like, no, I don't need to write this movie. Like, somebody else can direct this.
Yeah.
Well, a mercenary intelligence about where his skills lie, I think, is a big part of that. Like he knew what he could do well. He knew what, like as you say, his lane was, and how to succeed was to do his thing and not try to. He never tried to direct a thing. That's wrong. He directed Christmas in Connecticut once,
Yes.
but it was a total vanity project, like in an episode of Tales from the Crypt. Yes, he
Yeah.
never tried to do his own film though.
I think
He didn't try to make.
Well, we never tried to make an Oscar film.
or
No, not
Crusade,
once.
or
He never did his Braveheart, his like A Star Is Born. Although now that I said that out loud, holy shit, do I want to see that now?
Well, he did. What's interesting is, I mean, certainly not back in those days, but he did make a decent stab at pure dramatic acting a few years ago with a movie called Aftermath, where he basically loses his family in a plane crash, and he essentially stalks the air traffic control person that caused the crash. And there's no action. It's just Arnold taking a stab at being fully dramatic, and it's not a bad attempt. It's not a great movie, but I appreciated the fact that he tried it, because he could easily just do a bunch of crummy Bruce Willis style movies today, where he just shows up on set for a week and doesn't do anything. But he at least tried to do a dramatic role with Aftermath. But it was much later, not really the era we're talking about.
I disagree with you there, not having seen the movie, but that I don't appreciate that he's trying a stab at it. I appreciate that he does not inflict that upon us for at least 3 or 4 decades of his career. That I'm impressed by the fact that he did not do that.
It is a dalliance in his golden years, is what it feels like.
Yeah. It took him this long to get there. Okay, good for him.
He made a zombie film as well called Maggie, which is also a dramatic film. It is not a horror movie or a zombie movie, really.
No.
It's about his daughter getting infected with zombieism, and it is a sad, melancholy kind of.
Cheers all around for everyone involved on that one. That was good times.
Yeah, that one is a miss. Yes.
No, that was horrid.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who reached his level of success, you expect them to take that stab, though, like eventually, and probably way sooner than Arnold did. So kudos to him on that. But I mean, my contention is it's hard enough for me to take him seriously in the context of Predator. In the context of a fairly goofy movie, it's already like he, by his very presence to me, makes everything self-parodic. Like,
well, in what way? I mean,
I'm the naysayer here, I guess.
That to me, that was the whole genius of. I've said genius way too much, but that was the genius of Predator, and that's, I think, one reason why it's so much better than a lot of the similar movies, is that you basically have this whole team of essentially superhero soldiers with Arnold and Carl Weathers, Ventura, Bill Duke, and this is the ultimate badass team, and for most of the movie they're scared. That's why the movie to me works, is that they don't know what the hell's going on, and they are freaked out, and they don't really have a lot of time to be too quippy. They do in the beginning scene when they just tear down the whole drug compound and what have you, but for the most of the movie they're all pretty freaked out, and that's what I love about Predator, is that they're not really embracing what you would think would happen in one of those movies.
That's what makes Predator a great idea, and like a great concept for a movie. It doesn't work for me on a. It doesn't fully land with me.
Crazy,
like
outrageous.
Yeah,
this is my.
This is nuts.
I think it's a great time, nonetheless. But so my experience is this. Maybe this, like, I'm like 1 or 2 years younger than you guys, and I missed some like crucial moment here. But
yeah, that moment was Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 to me is like the only real movie that Arnold has been in. Like Terminator 1 and 2
Wow.
are the only movies that work.
All right.
Yeah.
That work for me as actual movies, as actual stories that I follow and get invested in, and that are not in their own subgenre of Arnold movies, which is a form of parody, like not unlike a Leslie Nielsen movie to me.
Okay,
I see.
We have to talk about this now.
I mean, I would say, I mean, if you're not classifying Total Recall as just a legit great movie and not just a great Arnold movie, just a great sci-fi action film, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I mean, there are great movies that are parodies.
I see what you're going for here. And I think
this is not like a thing I came to as an adult. I want to discuss here. Like, this was a thing as a child that I struggled to articulate, but it was like, even as a kid, I would get super invested in, movies were real to me. Like, I was very concerned about what would happen to the characters in E.T. or even so, like Aladdin is a cartoon, but to me, it was like, the stuff that happened to Aladdin really happened to Aladdin. And then Arnold just exists like outside of the fourth wall in a way where even as a kid, Predator would come on TV and I'm watching an R-rated movie that is very bloody and violent, and it's sort of a slasher, and I'm like not ready for that really, but except because it's Arnold, like there's no sense of danger to it. It doesn't feel like real, this violence, in the way that even other very unreal movies, that now would not rivet me. But they were always, like the thing that Tarantino talks about, where he's got his real movies like Pulp Fiction that has real people in it, and then there's like Kill Bill is what those characters in his movies would be watching on TV.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Arnold movies were what people in real movies would be watching on TV to me.
I think that to some extent that is part of his genius.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, he's created a genre almost unto himself, a subgenre, if you will. We're going to bounce around a lot here, and I think the way to go about this actually is to show the build. So I want to go over this year by year. I mean, I'm going to start in 1982, which is when it really gets going. But
there you go.
I guess there are some brief things before that are worth mention. Mainly Pumping Iron. Has anyone seen that? Have you seen Pumping Iron now?
I've seen Pumping Iron. That's certainly interesting.
Knew you would have, Chris. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you, if you want, my favorite pre-Conan Arnold role is his guest spot on Streets of San Francisco, where he wait for it, he plays a bodybuilder, and yeah, and he agrees to model for a female photographer. And so she's taking pictures of him, and he's got his shirt off, and he's obviously huge, gigantic, and she begins laughing at him and laughing at how absurd he looks, and he shakes her to death. That's the episode. Yeah. The only thing wrong.
Sorry, he has a shank.
No, he shakes her to death. He just shakes her.
He shakes her.
He gets so mad that he says, "Stop laughing at me! Stop laughing at me!" That's my Arnold. That's really bad. But stop laughing at me! Stop laughing at me! And just shakes her, and then she dies. The only problem with the episode is that it's a later one where it's not Michael Douglas. It's the guy from Battlestar Galactica. Shit. So it's Carl Malden and the Battlestar Galactica guy who have to go find Arnold and arrest him for murder.
I like the version I was picturing where he pulled a prison shank out of his G-string.
Well, that would have been
to
good
attack
too.
A small female photographer is still better in my head.
I don't know. Arnold shaking someone to death in Roid Rage. That sounds good. I mean, it's consistent with his appearance in Pumping Iron, which is
he's a dick in Pumping Iron.
Yes.
I mean, he's just a jerk.
He's basically bigger in McCracken in Pumping Iron.
Yeah, basically, yeah, 100%.
All right, you're playing directly to my
Yeah,
You're trying to bring me around pretty aggressively now.
yeah. Well, no, it is like it is a cartoonish, like good guy, bad guy Hollywood movie
Yeah.
about weightlifting is what it feels like. Where Lou Ferrigno is like the nice guy, then and Arnold is the sort of a the
Dick.
arrogant jackass. Yeah, and Arnold wins, of course.
Oh yeah.
The weightlifting, and he does it by mentally sabotaging Ferrigno. This is a big
Oh,
part
yeah.
of the movie. Is psychological warfare where he's like pretending to befriend Ferrigno and then insulting him in front of his family, stuff like that. It's pretty
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, no part of my critique of Arnold should be construed as I think he's a dumb guy, because I don't. I mean, he became governor of California for fuck's sake. Like
On a whim, it seems like. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it was a weird.
Well, I think it's more that he
it was a
saw.
weird
I don't know if it was a
situation.
whim so much as he saw an opening, and
Yes.
like this is
Yeah,
my
I
one
mean,
shot,
It
and
was.
he was ready.
It was out of the blue. I mean, because that he announced it. The whole recall thing that happened in July, and the election was in October. So it was 3 months. I mean, you look at people now that decide to run for things. It's like 2 years out, and he
Yeah.
that was just the way it was. And I mean, it was a pretty fluky situation, but. Hey,
Yeah.
I mean, I give him credit for winning, not so much what he did when he was in office, but he certainly captivated the state.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
celebrity.
I think he was savvy about that. That he saw that there is a weird opening here where it's a short election in a
Yeah.
like non-national race, and so name recognition is going to, which already means a ton, is going to carry
Sure.
even more weight in this. And he wrote that right in because he has that a bit of that evil genius vibe that you're talking about that cost poor Lou Ferrigno so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget the big debate that they had during that recall, and one of the other candidates was Ariana Huffington. It was 2003. What do you want? It was, and she was one of the other main candidates, and she cited the scene in Terminator 3 where Arnold has the fight in the bathroom with the evil Terminator woman, and shoves her head in the toilet, and she cited that as some of Arnold's feelings towards women.
Classy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Sounds about right.
That
Yeah.
summed up that whole election season right there.
The more
I
things
figure
change.
her accent probably did a lot of work to normalize Arnie on that stage
I
to make
think
him
so.
sound
Yeah.
less alien.
And somehow-
Sorry, John.
no, I mean,
as we are wont to do, have jumped way ahead on your timeline.
That's
Well,
all right.
too, but it's
82,
probably gonna
82.
it's going to happen. I mean, it's weird that he evolved into the conscience of the Republican Party at some point along the way
Yeah.
here too. But yes, this is out of our purview. 1982, Conan the Barbarian
Yes.
gets made. Conan the Barbarian is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
This is an excellent film, and this is a very real film, is how I would put it. Have you seen Conan the Barbarian now?
So,
Oh, don't say.
Conan the Barbarian. Well, it's one of those movies that I've never sat down and watched start to finish, but I've seen every scene in it,
Okay.
probably
Okay.
more than once.
Mhm.
Good enough.
But it's also, I have a weird experience of it where I probably saw like the back half of it several times before I saw the first half, and that
Mhm.
gives you a weird, like, skewed perspective on it. And then I also saw chunks of The Destroyer in there too, which I think jumbled it up. So
Yeah,
I have a weird, like, not clear memory of it.
It's worth a watch. It's worth
Oh,
a
for
sit
sure.
down and check out start to finish, because it is as perfectly made as a film about Conan the Barbarian could be. It is not just a shitty sword and sorcerers movie. In fact, it kind of makes every other sword and sorcery movie you've seen look like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Something like Beastmaster is not even remotely in the same league. This is a real film
Yeah.
written and directed by
How
John
dare
Milius,
you, sir?
real filmmaker. No, Beastmaster's shit. It's shit.
I haven't even seen it. I don't care.
But this is like a legitimately really well crafted film with a lot of psychological insight into who Conan the Barbarian is, a really strong sense of structure, some fantastic ornate dialogue, great location shooting, and one of the best scores in the history of cinema.
And a phenomenal turn from James Earl Jones. I think that will probably
Yes.
be the underrated Arnold villain of his whole filmography. It's like people just don't I feel like they don't give him his due for how awesome he is in this movie. He is fantastic.
As Tulsa Doom, the warlord of the Snake
Yes,
Cult. Yeah,
that's right.
that's great.
I kind of think you're right there, and I'm struggling to figure out why that would be, because it's not like James Earl Jones is somebody that like doesn't get respect. Generally
No, it's
speaking,
like it's like all anyone says is Vader, Lion King, CNN. That's pretty much that's everybody's James Earl Jones, memories, I suppose. But gosh, he is incredible. I love him in Conan. It's a great
Yeah.
movie. I don't like the whole sword and sorcery stuff by and large. It kind of bores me for the most part. But yeah, Conan is to me far and away the best of that whole genre. It's just a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I would say outside of Terminators 1 and 2, I guess, because Terminator 3 is still an Arnie movie.
Mm-hmm.
Conan the Barbarian is probably the one that comes closest to being a real full-blown movie to me. And I think it definitely helps to take Arnold, put him in a fantastical setting, where
Yes.
it's not modern day
Yeah,
America.
no,
well,
not
Where he
even
just
close.
can't blend in.
well, when you get into the later comedies and he's just Arnold in America, I mean,
Yeah.
I really know what you're talking about with the Arnold movie. Then, it's not a real film. Yes, Jingle All the Way.
Well, I don't want to
Not
jump ahead too far, but you got to be coming up on Commando pretty soon, and
coming up on Commando. Yeah,
that's the Arnie Arnold movie.
yeah. So Conan the Barbarian is perfect. It might be my favorite film he's made. It's as strong as that thing can get, and even though this is before he can act like at all.
Yeah,
But he's just so well used by Milius. Milius is aware of his limitations, and he makes it a strength. Like they give,
yeah,
because they make Conan dumb. Conan's not very bright in it. He's just sort of a doofus.
yep.
But he has a certain form of cunning.
Yes, a low animal cunning, and
Which we just talked about. Like Arnold definitely has that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't even know if that's that in real life. I don't know that I'd call it like that low or that animal. Like I think it actually has a fairly developed intelligence. It's just it's really hard to accept real intelligence coming like from that body and that voice. It
I
just
think
doesn't
he
process.
uses that against people. Actually, I think that
Yeah, he
how
does.
he's able to play
100%.
underdogs somehow. Yeah,
Yep.
despite being a giant, a human giant.
Mhm.
So that's 82. Next film is 84. It's Conan the Destroyer. It's whatever. It's what you make after Conan the Barbarian. It's nowhere near as good. That's much more of a regular sword and sorcery movie. It has some
it's a
fun
less-
elements, but not really.
It's an
Yeah.
80s sequel. It's the lesser version of the original.
Yeah.
Well, because what they did was they thought that, okay, well, we've got this Conan, people now know who this character is, let's water it down, make it way less violent, throw away all the sex, and let's
Mhm.
make it something that little kids can go see. And that's what they ended up doing. And yeah, it's I don't think it's horrendous, but it's
No,
not
no.
it's not anywhere near as good as the original.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it falls into that trap in the most obvious way possible, where it's still not a very good kids movie, but
No.
it's also like missing the part that made the Barbarian fun for adults.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It ends up being a movie that nobody wants.
Well, it has its things. Grace Jones is in it, playing a thief.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
are Grace Jones
Yeah.
fans out there that
And
that
Will
will be
Chamberlain.
There's Chamberlain,
Yeah.
one of the great Will Chamberlain role. I would probably have to say, right?
Yeah, how I think it's his only role, I believe, but yeah, how interesting is it that you have a movie where Arnold and Wilt Chamberlain are protecting the virginity of a young woman?
Oh, Jesus
Yeah, it's really
Christ.
good. The evil
That's-
queen's plot is I need this princess to remain intact.
Yeah,
I will get Arnold and Wilt Chamberlain to protect her
yeah,
and send her away with them.
yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what it is. Oh, I think the worst part of Destroyer, and I like this actor in general, but is Tracy Walter is just, oh my God, he is
Yeah.
so bad in it. And like I don't know
There's a lot
what.
of that.
Yeah, but he just like really sticks out like every time he has a line, and it's too bad because he's one of those kind of guys that I like, but it's pitiful.
Yeah, I mean, I like him as Bob and
Oh, yeah.
whatnot, but
He's
It-
great as Bob.
it's a special achievement to stand out as like the bad actor in an Arnie movie.
He does. He does. I mean,
Uh,
he's a good actor. Yeah, like you said, Bob. He's great as the Exterminator in Pacific Heights. Oh, fantastic there. And I mean, he's someone I always enjoy seeing, except in Conan the Destroyer. Just dreadful.
he doesn't fit
Yeah.
the milieu of the old world,
No,
Dark Ages kind of vibe of that. Not that Wilt
no.
Chamberlain does. Um, Andre the Giant's in there too. He plays a horned
That's
beast.
yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Anyway, that's Conan the Destroyer. The other film from 1984 is The Terminator,
There we
which,
go.
of
Right.
course, yeah, great film.
I mean, this, I think, maybe this is what you're about to get into, but you got to give credit. It's Milius and Cameron
Yeah.
together both do the thing you just talked about of like understanding Arnold's limitations and putting him to a really good use.
Yeah,
With those limitations, and I think doing that twice in such short succession led everybody to say, okay, this is a guy that we can use in everything, or at least in a lot of things, more things than you actually can use him in.
yeah.
But
Well, yeah. He can carry a film though. He can do the thing. He can sell tickets. He can be the center of a movie, even with his limitations as they were. He got better at acting as he went on, of course, but
yeah, but he never got to be convincing as somebody who was not Arnold.
But he always had
Obviously, the genius of the Terminator role is that he doesn't have to be convincing as a human being.
mhm.
right. But going
was written-
forward, he had a likable presence, and obviously, it maybe doesn't show up so much in the first Terminator because he's the villain. But that's why people went to see his movies. It was basically the same thing as John Wayne so long ago. I mean, he wasn't really a great actor, but people just loved that
Mhm.
persona. And Arnold, it was the same from the 80s and 90s.
John Wayne is very much the touchstone I was
Yeah.
thinking about for this. Like that's the kind of movie star he is. He's the
Yeah.
kind of guy who will sell the B movies and he'll make 1 million of them, and he's going to elevate each and every one by his presence and charisma. And
Yeah,
then it
and-
becomes a Schwarzenegger film, as it would become a John Wayne film. I mean, yeah, this is not. He's not
But-
disappearing into roles. No.
No.
But I do think there is like that type of actor, like you said, that kind of does their one thing. I mean, I don't know. Arguably, like Humphrey Bogart is also somebody that
Yeah.
doesn't really
Yeah.
disappear into roles. Or I don't know, Errol Flynn maybe.
Well, I mean,
Had,
you
like,
can even
a
go.
wheelhouse that he
You can even go Clint Eastwood. I mean, for the most part. I mean, every now and again he'll have a White Hunter, Black Heart, where he's a little bit different, but I
Stretching
feel
himself.
He's good at that. Yeah.
he's great. Oh, I love that movie. But for the most part, he kind of had his bread and butter, and he knew what he was good at. He knew what people wanted to see, and that's what he did in his movies.
But the distinction to me here lies that even with like John Wayne, his thing that he plays, that he does in every movie, is still not. It's not really an everyman, but it is a human being. It is a recognizable human being. Arnold, I guess, came around. Like it took until the '80s for Arnold to take off, maybe for a reason, because once cocaine really like seeped into our bloodstream nationally, we kind of left planet Earth for a while there. And Arnold's thing that he does to me is it's an alien. It is not even a human being in the way that I can recognize Eastwood. I can recognize even John Wayne as a person that I might encounter in my life and be able to speak to.
Well, I think that his just sort of remarkableness as a human being, I mean, that comes straight from bodybuilding. Like he's supposed to be kind of non-human in a sense. He's an
literally
elevated figure.
he's Mr. Universe.
Right.
He's not Mr. Utah.
And
No,
even though
exactly.
sometimes he plays characters he shouldn't be playing, suburban
Mm.
dads. Every now and then it happens. It's even that it's usually in service of a comic idea,
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's for comedic effect.
Like in Junior, the entire premise of Junior is what if Arnold had a baby, and
Sure.
and so for that to work, he has to play a scientist or whatever the hell he's playing in Junior. But
Right,
you
but
know.
it's also a thing of if we're gonna have if the comic conceit is what if a man got pregnant, we need to make it the man who is least likely. Or,
Yeah.
most it seems most absurd to get pregnant.
That's like the heart of all his comedies, actually.
Yeah,
Kindergarten
well,
Cop,
exactly.
yeah, all of them. Yeah, and it's not good on its own. You can make it good, but Junior is an example of it not working. For example,
Yeah.
but you know,
But like Twins, it kind of works.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen that movie in decades, but
Yeah, I would put Twins and Kindergarten Cop. They're harmless.
Mhm.
They're not comedies that you're gonna want to watch over and over once every 3 or 4 years. But when the
I think
time that
I
you,
think
you did see them, you thought, that was funny, enjoyable, and then you move on.
I believe Kindergarten Cop I probably watch every 3 or 4 years.
Really,
I think so. I think that's a pretty good one.
it's
That's
fine,
it's one
harmless.
of the
it's got some. What Kindergarten Cop has, in my recollection, is some great like '80s scumbag villains.
it
Oh yeah,
certainly does.
It's
Richard
probably the early
Tyson.
'90s, but it's the part of the early '90s where the '90s haven't really started yet, so it's still the '80s.
Yeah,
It's
well,
exactly what it is.
Richard Tyson, fresh off of a 3 o'clock high.
Is he even though he's just the guy?
Is that the name of the guy who plays Crisp?
Yeah,
He's the
Crisp.
villain. Yeah.
His hairdresser is the real like behind the scenes puppet master villain.
That is a guy who, if I see him in anything, it's just like, oh, it's Crisp. Oh, don't trust Crisp. Yeah.
And you probably haven't said that very often. I don't think because he's kind of he's. I remember he shows up in Black Hawk Down, and I don't know if I've seen anything since then.
Crisp. Yeah.
No, John means that he takes the F train with him.
Oh,
Poor
all right.
Crisp.
Well, don't get too close to him because as in 3 o'clock high, you don't like that.
Man, there's that part in Kindergarten Cop when like he's trying to kidnap his child.
Yeah.
He's like, it's okay. I'm a fireman. You can trust me. If you're a fireman, why aren't you wearing a hat? And he's just like, you know what? You're right. I'm no jerk fireman. I'm your dad.
Shirk. I think the more relevant question, but if I can trust you, what's with that ponytail?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're a villain in an Arnold film, that is a good look. I mean, I think Crisp is. God, we're talking about Crisp a lot. A better villain than and a fair amount of characters in the filmography. Raw Deal doesn't have a villain as strong as Crisp.
All right, let's do it. Let's do
Whoa.
our quick.
Wait, you'll take Crisp over Robert Davi and Raw Deal? No
Yes,
way.
Robert Davi's good, but no, Crisp.
Aw.
Crisp. Okay, we'll get to Raw Deal. Next is
Let's do. No, I want to do a quick rundown here.
Okay.
Who is our best villains Arnold movies?
Oh well, T-1000 is the best. I think.
Yes. Okay.
I don't think
With
you
a bullet for me. That's
yeah.
not even questionable.
Well, then
Um,
I'm going Cohagen after that.
I agree with that.
Oof,
Love
yes.
Ronnie Cox
Mhm.
there. He gets so much love for RoboCop, and it's well deserved. I feel like people just kind of don't give Cohagen as much props, but man, he's almost like Dick Jones times 1,000 in Total Recall.
Yeah, he's broad. He's really good though. Tulsa Doom is on the short list.
Yes,
Yeah,
Richard Dawson in Running Man is
he's
pretty
awesome.
fantastic.
yes,
Yeah.
he is.
Well,
I mean, are
I'm
we
gonna,
counting the Predator?
That's what
Yeah,
was going to be my
Predator.
next question. Do we count the Predator?
yeah, that counts. And I'll tell you one that also doesn't get enough love, but I love him in this movie is James Caan in Eraser. James Caan is such a great dirtbag in Eraser, and he doesn't get the recognition he deserves for being such a great dirtbag in that movie.
He's pretty
I
good.
still put him behind Crisp, I think.
Yeah,
No.
he's got stiff competition. Is all.
No, there's
I
the
feel like the
scene-
thing is, I don't feel like I can smell James Caan in Eraser.
no, but there's that.
And I
There's
feel
the,
like I can smell Crisp's cologne.
There's the
Great.
scene in Eraser where they go to one of the witnesses that they're trying to protect, and it's all under the guise of, we need to help you. And James Caan goes into the room where it's a female witness, and she thinks she's going to be protected. Oh, and then he ends up killing her, and it's just, oh man, he is just such a
Great.
weasel. That's to me, Eraser is his most underrated film by leaps and bounds. I don't know why it doesn't get in the pantheon of the other major Arnold films, but whatever. That's just life.
I have another one put forward for that. We'll get to it.
Okay.
I would say this is an interesting Eraser.
Okay,
subject.
I'll sit on it then. I had one too, but I wonder if it's the same.
We'll get to it. Eraser, the villain in that role, the James Caan role, was originally offered to Jonathan Pryce.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And he was like, well, there's a scene here where I fist fight Arnold, and they're like, yeah, but I'm Jonathan Pryce. He's like, we'll make it work. And he's like, I don't think I want to do that. I think I'll look ridiculous.
Well, yeah, which is funny because
James Caan
then,
had no problem with that.
well, then what about 16, 17 years later, he's President Zartan in GI Joe Resolution, which he's great in, but it's just funny how these things come full circle.
That's right. He is President Zartan. That's
Oh, he's the best thing in that movie. He's hilarious.
without a doubt. He's the best thing in that movie. Yeah.
I believe that. I'm just still trying to recover. My mind's processing the idea that there was a time when James Caan got Jonathan Pryce's leftovers.
I don't know that he was ever hot either. Like
In a
Price.
big budget American movie.
I think his big deal was he was doing those car commercials at the time.
Well, I think wasn't he? I mean, that was
You
kind
told
of
me this is like he was playing Iago on the West End.
but that
and,
was sort of the
like, James Caan really
era.
wanted to do that. Okay.
That was the era where you took all the classical British actors and you made them bad guys in American action movies. There was Alan Rickman, it was Jeremy Irons, it was Gary Oldman. That was just what you did. So I think that was pretty much the thought with Jonathan Pryce was he's a respected British actor. Let's make him a bad guy in an Arnold movie.
Yeah.
And then that sort of like came back around post Game of Thrones. We did a little bit more of that. It was how Price got a second bite at that apple, I guess.
Yeah.
You see him Dance pop up in those roles too now.
Yeah, Charles Dance is another one.
1985, a year after the Terminator, Red Sonja comes out. Red Sonja is, I mean, if Conan the Destroyer is a step down from Barbarian, Red Sonja is a step down from that. I mean, this one, this
I haven't seen
shot
this one.
like while Terminator was being edited or something. It's nothing.
But I think you got to give Arnold credit for making sure he's barely in it.
yeah, exactly.
He is smart enough to just say, I'll come to the set and I'll do what I do with Brigitte Nielsen offset. That'll be fine. But I don't put me in a lot of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not a big one.
No.
Moving on. The other film in 1985 is Commando. And
Yes.
And yes, Al, this is kind of where the pattern starts to fall into place a little bit, maybe.
And that is one where like that script as written doesn't require Arnold. I mean,
Oh, you think?
the John Matrix character doesn't seem like he's like. I don't know that in the I don't know what do you call it, the stage direction or whatever in that script it says like John Matrix, just a 6'2" block of 400 pounds of solid muscle or whatever. I mean, Arnold's shorter than that, but doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know that he has to be a hulking Superman. He just has to be, in our modern parlance, that could be Matt Damon. that could be Tom Cruise in that role. It's Ethan Hunt. But because it's Arnold and just his physique adds a level of absurdity to the entire thing.
I agree, and I think this absurdity is part of the strength of Commando.
Oh yeah.
I think if
Yes,
this movie starts.
I absolutely agree in this case.
If this is somebody like realistic in this role, this movie is nothing. There's like the whole point of this movie is it's like a live GI Joe cartoon with R-rated violence.
Yep.
That's the entire fun of Commando. Is that
Well, if it's somebody realistic, it's a totally different movie.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
this. I mean, it's a Liam Neeson movie these days. Like,
Right.
and that would be worse
But-
though. It wouldn't be as good. It would be.
oh right, no, I think I would say this Arnold to me or Commando to me is the best Arnold movie.
Whoa, that's something. I mean,
I'm saying the Terminator movies don't count as Arnold
quote
movies.
unquote Arnold movie. Okay.
But everything else he's in
A lot of qualifiers.
No, I mean everything else. He's playing a character in that where his alienness fits within the context of a movie that I can otherwise like. It still works as its own narrative. Every other movie is just an Arnold movie. Everything is, it's all built around his persona, and there's a level of unreality that comes with that. And Commando embraces that absurdity to a level that I mean, you can't like Eraser can't top it. It might want to, but it kind of knows it can't.
Well, Eraser's definitely trying to be more of a movie. I mean,
Right.
It has a plot structure, and there are reveals in Eraser. There's character relationships in Eraser. Robert Pastorelli is in there as a comic relief. Commando doesn't fuck with any of that stuff. Commando is just like, it's the plot of Bad Dudes, the video game.
Yeah,
If they
it's
kidnap his daughter, he will kill
Yes.
everyone in between them and
right.
his daughter.
And it's
And
just every it's all just getting to the boss level. I mean, it's just you go from Bill Duke, you go to to the army, and then you got Dan Hedaya, and then you got Vernon Wells. So it's basically just one
Vernon
level
Wells.
after another. Hey, he's fantastic
Yeah.
in it. I mean,
That's
there's
another
no
villain
two
for
ways.
the pantheon.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
that's like the mismatch that Jonathan Pryce was worried about.
Yeah, I mean, he does at least look like a Double Dragon villain, though. He's got that
Oh yeah.
mesh
Yeah.
vest thing going on, and the mustache, and it's sort of like an overweight Freddie Mercury look to him. It's funny. It's
It amazes me this movie came out in 1985 because it seems like it is a just complete reaction to like satire of the excesses of the 80s that were like kind of just getting started.
Yeah, well, because this year you had both the second Rambo and then you had Commando, and that kind of set the whole stage for those one man army movies. That then there were all kinds of ripoffs, with Red Scorpion and Invasion USA, which actually I think that came out in the same year. So they all were sort of biting off of each other in a certain respect. I mean, Commando, I mean, I think it came out in October of '85, and they filmed it in like April. I mean, it was just a super fast shoot that they filmed like 6 months before it opened. And but man, it's a top five Arnold film for me. I mean, it's
interesting.
absurd and
Mhm.
completely silly, but God, I love it. I mean, it's just one of those movies that saw at a certain age where I loved it, and still to this day, it just does not get old for me.
It's I mean, it's pretty watchable for being
Yeah.
a dumb movie. It's pretty fun. And I mean, yeah, this is a contributing factor into his legacy. I would say this is the next step. This is a movie that is entirely him. I mean, I don't think this is on the level of the great films, but it's very much him carrying something on his own and really getting something out of that. Like the absurdity is very much part of the point with Commando.
Yeah, as absurd as it is, it's the first time where this is going to sound absurd, but this is the first time that he's somewhat relatable because he has a daughter, and people can at least people you can't really relate to Conan, and you can't really relate to the Terminator, and I
I
guess
can relate to Conan just as easily as I relate to John Matrix.
no,
I mean,
no.
it's probably easier.
He's carrying that tree in the opening
Oh.
arm.
Feeding the deer.
Oh, hey, when he gets the ice cream cone to the face, I mean we've all had that
Mhm.
happen.
This is the most McBain of Schwarzenegger films. I would say this is the one that is
Absolutely.
like the most easily satired. Because it is so plainly self-serious. Like it has all the it feels like a comedy, but that's clearly not
Oh,
what they're
there's hilarious scenes that I think they knew were going to be hilarious. I mean, the whole scene with him when he's getting on the airplane, and they ask him, "Did you bring any luggage?" And just him. I mean, there's so many nice quips in this one look, it was written by Steven D'Souza, and he knows how to make these movies funny. So I don't really think it was taking itself seriously at all. I think it knew,
well,
if
not serious.
anything. I mean, if anything, it didn't go as far as Arnold wanted to. I remember hearing a story where Arnold, he wanted a scene where he severed a guy's arm and then beat the guy with his own arm. But I guess they went to the
That old
producer, and the producers, I guess, said that was a little too much for them.
It's not.
But
That should have happened. That's
I
such a Commando
agree.
Yeah.
move.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there was no reason to hold anything back in
no.
that movie.
Year after that's Raw Deal, which is
Well,
of a piece with Commando.
I mean, Raw Deal is, I mean, and you can tell that it's just, I mean, from what I'd always heard, was that he was under contract to do more Conan movies, and he didn't want to do them. And this was, Dino De Laurentiis produced Raw Deal, and he basically just said, "Look, I'll do this Raw Deal for you, and let's just squash the contract." and I feel like you can kind of tell because he's basically playing both a small town sheriff and a guy who goes undercover in the mob, and he's not really built for either one of those.
Very much not.
And
Yeah.
no, and I mean I
He's
like
not built to be undercover in humanity. I mean,
no
that's the basis of the Terminator.
exactly yeah. But in Raw Deal, I mean I basically it just comes down to the third act. I really love the third act. It's just
good.
gives you all the grisly violence that you want. He shoots the guy, then pours candy on him. I don't even know why, but he does. And you get Joe Regalbuto from Murphy Brown. Yeah,
That's the
it's
best. Yeah. What he's like the last villain, right? Like it's
yeah,
Frank
yeah,
Fontana from Murphy Brown. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
believe he has a cowering, uh,
Well, yeah, Arnold was
frightened
gonna
death scene. Yeah, like,
yeah, Arnold's gonna let him live, but then Regal Buto, I guess, goes for a gun at the last second, and then that's when Arnold turns around and blows him away. So no,
Oh, what
no,
was that move?
yeah, the old, I was gonna let you live, but then you went for a gun, so I gotta kill you.
I haven't seen Raw Deal. I didn't know it did that move.
oh yeah, it's fun. It's it's not one of the great ones, but it is sort of it's the beginning of sassy Arnold. I think like it's he's being a bit more of a little shit.
I mean, he's pretty sassy in Commando, right?
He's real sassy.
Yeah.
He's sassing the hell out of Bennett at the end there.
I mean, there's a little bit of that's true. He does have the weird sexual chemistry with Bennett for sure.
Well, that was the whole thing with Bennett is where Bennett is in love with Matrix. I mean, that's the whole thing with Commando is he's in love. He wants to kill him, but he's also in love with him, and I think Vernon Wells captured that perfectly.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to ask. They knew what they were doing, right? Because it gets so close sometimes that I think, like at the end, there's like, why don't you let her go? And what you really want is me. Don't deny yourself the pleasure. Come, stick it in me. All that shit.
I don't know if everybody knew, but somebody on that set knew, whether it was Wells or the director, but somebody was pushing the people who weren't on, like, who were oblivious to it to like.
I mean, Arnold literally throws a large phallic symbol into Bennett. I mean, that's the death right there.
Yep. It's
he does penetrate him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It sounds like Red Heat has sort of the issue though that keeps popping up here, which is you kind of struggle to like, okay, who's the final villain for Arnold to face off against?
Oh, Raw Deal. Yes,
because it's kind of like a.
Well, they have a.
I mean, Commando has the same issue with Bennett. That it's like once he's gotten through the whole army, it's like how do we? There's no buddy we can stack him up against one-on-one, except for the T-1000.
The guy from Murphy Brown is not up to the task.
No.
That's the fun of it, though. Yeah,
you have to have the T-1000 or the Predator, I guess.
Well, the best villain in Raw Deal is Robert Davi, and he gets killed kind of before all the real mayhem. Yeah, there's also
It's a lot of like old Italian gangsters that he's going up against. It's pretty.
That's not a fair fight.
No, it's not. He wipes them out. It's
the year before he overthrew a country by himself.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is him trying to play more of a normal guy than John Matrix. I mean, he doesn't even have a hilarious name in Raw Deal. I think it's Mark Kaminsky, I believe is his name in it, which, no.
There's the silly Arnold names like make you chuckle, and then the normal Arnold names make me laugh out loud. Like as much as like, no, John Matrix is not a real person. Like he's not like a Steve Pulaski over here. Like of course he's not that guy.
Yeah, this is like him trying to do like a Golden Globus kind of thing. This is like a Charles Bronson role. Charles Bronson movie is the vibe of Raw Deal. It's him being more of a normal person, I guess. Him attempting, and he's not great at it yet. This is this work in progress, Arnold with Raw Deal. But it's a step forward. I think it's getting him closer to the comedy star that he would ultimately become.
Has great use of satisfaction.
Yeah. Raw Deal's fun. That. These are all fun. Is the point?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just it needs the third act is what I'll say. Is you really have to have a big body count in that third act, and it does deliver. And so I give it a nominal pass.
like when he shoots that guy at the quarry and he falls into the rock grinder.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of that
Perfect.
kind of nonsense in Raw Deal.
Yes.
It's good. Year after that is 1987. This is Predator. So
Oh yeah.
and The Running Man, which are both real fun.
Both good movies.
Yeah, I think Running Man is my choice for underrated Arnold. Great.
Is it that under? I mean, I guess it's not rated the way that Predator is.
No.
I think the problem with Running Man is the director is I don't know if he was Starsky or Hutch, but it's
Starsky.
Paul. He's Starsky.
Yeah.
Okay. And
he did a Verhoeven or somebody like that. Yes.
Yeah, it's like when it comes, I love the humor in it. Richard Dawson's great. Arnold looks cool. You got all that, but when it gets time for the meat and potatoes, the fight scenes, and the action, it just doesn't quite measure up. I definitely enjoy the movie because it's just got such an oddball cast, and that wins me over. And it has a good kind of subversive sense of humor to it, and there's enough to enjoy, but it's the action that's lacking compared to his other films from this time.
I think you're totally right there, Chris. The concept is killer, the cast is great, and then the action, just filmmaking just can't.
It's very. It just has a real flat. Everything is such a flat look, and it has and I know that
I really like the look of this film. I really like the 1980s game zone that they're running around in. You know, there's just dilapidated city streets and warehouses, and all of a sudden they're in a nice skating rink. You know, all that stuff. All the and also the
I like the garishness of the costumes and the set design.
I just
think that
yes.
Yeah, there's just like the action is lacking, like, I don't know, kineticism to it. Something.
I'd agree with that. Although the kills are quite good.
They're well conceived. Yeah, that's the thing.
There's some very fine kills in this film. There's some really good Arnold one-liners. I think every kill gets a good one-liner out of it.
Yeah, it delivers on pretty much on almost everything you would want in an Arnold movie except the action. It is very lackluster, especially when they're having the shootouts at the end with all the security personnel. It has a very TV feel to it.
Yeah, it's not well staged, or it's chaotic. And the same year as Predator, which has excellent action.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. But these,
and then they have the great concept of all these like gladiators, the American gladiators, and like what's the most memorable fight he has with any of them? It's probably Sub-Zero, which is like the first one, right?
Yeah.
You want to see him like the other guys are these big colorful personalities, dynamos riding around singing opera, and those are fun concepts. But it never, the action,
and we don't even get.
It's not great to start with, and it trails off as it goes.
And we don't even really get a legit Arnold Jesse Ventura fight. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you blow that?
There's a virtual reality one. They are on set together fighting.
But it's built up to be a big thing, and it was a bit of a letdown.
It is odd that entire plot line. I don't know what we're supposed to think of Captain Freedom or what his arc is. Like, he has a really confusing monologue that he comes out and delivers, like, "I won't do it, Killian. Used to be about the code of the gladiators." And it's just like, what are you talking about, dude? Why won't you go fight Arnold?
It's hard to imagine, like, what was it at the first? What were these gladiators?
Are we supposed to
what
care
were you doing the
about
first
this
time?
guy? What is? Yeah. I that he did more in it. Sure, I mean, it's an imperfect film, but it has.
No, but Richard Dawson is great, like you said.
He's the best part of it, 100%. Yeah, I mean, that's
and it's only gotten better now that we know he's a total creep in real life. That hating him is just that much more satisfying.
Well, that scene early on where the janitor kind of messes up his shoes, and he tells him, "Oh, hey, don't worry about it. You're great. You're doing a fantastic job. No problem." And then immediately, fire that guy. If he's here on Monday, you better not be. And just the way he goes so fast from nice guy game show host to just cutthroat asshole is phenomenal.
You remake Running Man now. Who do you get to play the Richard Dawson character?
Man.
I mean, Regis
Wayne Brady.
He passed. What was it?
Wayne Brady.
It's kind of fun. That's kind of fun.
I think Wayne Brady would relish doing a big villain role.
I was thinking Drew Carey.
Why not Ryan Stiles? Let's just go through the whole Whose Lines It Anyway cast.
I'm gonna go Steve Harvey.
Ooh,
Yeah, I could see that too.
ooh, that's fun. Yeah,
That's the one I would go with.
Seacrest.
But here's the thing, like about your American Running Man now, I want it to be different. And the reason why I think I rate Commando above Predator and Running Man, which I think are both good, fun movies in their own right, but they're both movies that I kind of like. You could do a version of those movies with like real actors in them that are like quote unquote real action movies with a little more uh, weight to them. And I might prefer those movies to the Arnold version. Whereas Commando, yeah, you could do. I mean, you can make it. It's Taken if you just put Liam Neeson
Yeah.
in that role.
Predator, really?
But I wouldn't want. I like the Arnold version of Commando. I don't want the non-goofy version of that. Whereas I think I might want a less goofy, more scary version of Predator.
The less
I don't
scary
know, it's a
version.
little scary. It's a bit scary. I mean, it's
It
still,
is.
yeah. Like who could possibly defeat this Predator other than Schwarzenegger? That's
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
that is the answer is there for me before the opening credits start.
I understand that.
but would you agree that they even though these are all tough guys in the jungle, that they do look legitimately scared of the predator? They sell that.
Yes, but because Arnold is with them, I don't believe any of this is like real, quote unquote. I am more afraid for Danny Glover in Predator 2.
That is an inferior film, though.
Yes,
still
it is.
good.
Yes, still good.
I haven't seen it in so long I couldn't tell you if it's actually good or not. But it delivers a little more on the like threat level. I say like just Arnold, he exists outside of the fourth wall. And you put an actor in there, you know, Bill Duke and even Carl Weathers, maybe even Jesse Ventura can exist inside of the fourth wall entirely to where I'm really going, holy shit, how are they going to get out of it? Like, how are they going to get around this thing? But with Arnold, it's just, well, I don't know. It's the accent somehow. It just takes me out of everything.
I don't believe I could accept Arnold as a character that I think will die or that has immortality to him. And I know he dies in a few movies, not often though. It's
Well, I think there's versions of Predator and Running Man where you have that element into it, and maybe those are action movies that I would enjoy more.
I mean, I can see your point maybe with Running Man, although I mean, I think that it's practically a comedy as is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know, it's doing Verhoeven-y stuff, you know, just not quite at the polish of Total Recall, and
Right.
but Predator, I mean, that's crazy to me. Is the prototypical Arnold film.
Yeah,
You need a guy that is gigantic.
I think Commando is the prototypical Arnold film.
Well,
he's more or less playing the same character in each one of them. I mean, he's just the badass special forces guy. Like that was kind of my problem. You know, just jumping a little bit ahead with True Lies, was that they were trying to make him the James Bond persona, and that
Right.
was his double life. Which to me, that's not him. His double life should have been, you know, badass special forces guy, and he should have been, you know, in fatigues and all the stuff that he was doing in Predator and Commando. And they tried to make him more of a James Bond type figure, and I don't know, that always felt a little off to me.
Yeah, sending him in undercover anywhere is just never going to work. Like,
Yeah,
you know that he can't play anybody else. And even in Predator, I think that the special forces vibe, like, I guess I have a sense that special forces are supposed to be sneaky, and I just don't buy that that's in his wheelhouse or Jesse Ventura's. Any of those guys, they are blunt objects.
yeah. Well, I think that's their whole thing, is you send these guys in when you're not looking for survivors. You're just sending them in to clean house,
Right.
and that's the end of it.
I mean, it is not. It's the same idea as Aliens, basically. You
Yeah.
send a highly trained task force in, and then they get wiped out by the thing, and then
Yeah.
then they're scared by it, and oh, what a reversal! You know, it's the same fun idea.
And in Aliens, I buy that threat entirely in a way that I don't in Predator.
Oh, well, Aliens is, I guess, the better film. I mean, I think ultimately I would have to agree.
It's pretty damn close.
It's damn close, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I can accept that at least. I think it's part of one of the charms of the Arnold film.
But what I think the parts I like about Predator are more it's the supporting cast and the creature of the Predator are my big like draws there.
Yeah, I mean, those are all. Yeah, I mean, that creature design and, you know, that cast. I mean, you'll never whatever men on a mission movie that you'll see from today until when we're lowered into the ground, it'll never quite be like those guys because they just don't put those kind
Yeah.
of guys in movies anymore.
You do respond to the last 20 minutes or so when it becomes this sort of a Jack London battle for survival and primacy, and where they're setting traps and hiding in the mud and firing homemade bow and arrows. Does Arnold not work for you in those scenes?
No, he
Down
doesn't.
back
Predator
to
works for me.
nature?
The part of Predator that works for me is the middle stretch, second act, where it's where the guys are getting picked. It's a slasher part, the guys
Yeah.
are getting picked off. I love everything. I like how like they set up Carl Weathers as Arnold's old friend, and then it plays out this weird uh,
It's a double cross.
Carl Weathers' relationship turns out to be with Bill Duke, like the one that matters.
Yeah, that's true.
And I like how that works out.
Yeah, hey, it's another Carl Weathers performance. That you don't get
Mhm.
enough of those. He was really something
Yeah,
in the
like-
80s. I love him. Yeah.
Well, and this one basically, it was because of this one that we got Action Jackson.
Is that right?
Yeah, because
Makes sense.
Joel Silver produced Predator, and liked what Carl Weathers was doing on that, and gave him his own vehicle a year later. So, hey, we don't get Action Jackson without Predator.
So the thing about Action Jackson, that's probably a good example or a good demonstration of what Arnold was so good at. Not to slight it
Mhm.
too much, but it's kind of a trash movie. And
But a
It's-
great one.
yes, but if Arnold had made that film, I mean, I think people would still
Well,
talk about it today.
You'd
I think
have
it
to.
would be
You probably change the title.
It's-
I
sure, yeah, or maybe he could just be one of his Detective Steve Jackson or whatever, one of the dumb names that he sometimes has. John,
I think,
Temple, yeah,
I think you're also, I mean, John, you're definitely right that the 80s through like the mid 90s are sort of littered with this, like all these other guys that were supporting actors in Arnold movies and got like one or two shots to do their version of like Dolph Lundgren got his, and Carl Weathers, and Arnold makes a whole career out of it, but most of the rest of them do not.
I mean, I enjoy most of those,
yeah.
but yeah, you can really
I
tell.
enjoy almost all of them.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see what he brings to the store that those guys don't. I think.
Yeah, I mean he
The
basically
most successful of them is less successful than Eraser, though, which is not Arnold's highest
Yeah.
grossing or thought of film.
Yeah,
it was because of Arnold and Stallone that we ended up with Seagal and
Mhm.
Van Damme and Lundgren and Jeff Speakman and Onward and Brian Bosworth and whatever Carl Weathers. So yeah, I mean it was
Bosworth,
all
that's a good one.
because hey, we just
I'm being critical of Arnold here, but I don't think it's fair to hold him responsible for Steven Seagal.
if Seagal would have been as smart as Arnold and realized that he was not a great actor and just let himself work with better directors like he did with Under Siege, he would have had a bigger career. He just, unfortunately, he turned into Stallone.
He chose to
after
work with
that.
human traffickers.
Well, and he ended. I'm going way back. I'm not the more recent stuff. I'm just saying when he was at his height with Under Siege, which was with a legitimate director and Andrew Davis, that was kind of the pinpoint time where he could have gone the Arnold route and kept working with great directors, and instead he went the let's go make a vanity project on deadly ground, and then that was pretty much a slow road to nowhere.
he was poised, and On Deadly Ground was a massive barrier to forward momentum. That was for sure. It's still like
Yes.
one of the more watchable things he's done. 'cause
Oh
it's
no,
such
I love
bad
it.
shit.
I enjoy
Yeah.
it quite a bit, but it's a total vanity project, and that's what happens when
That's
you
what's fun
give-
about it. Yeah,
yeah.
Michael Caine, isn't it? My
Oh,
God.
Kane is incredible.
He's having fun. Okay,
Yes.
so
He's one I never understood. Like, setting aside all the present day stuff, like, I mean, not that this stuff's not important, but it's easy to take shots at it. I didn't understand Steven Seagal's appeal in his heyday, even compared to like Jean-Claude Van Damme, sort of like Arnold, not a great actor. Had that just unshakable accent that made it jarring when they try and make him sort of American everyman roles, but who still had this thick European accent. But Seagal, like Van Damme, had a physicality to him. He could do shit that was physically impressive, and Arnold looked physically impressive. Seagal was an action hero who was never in great shape, it appeared, and who also moved super awkwardly.
Well, but that's
ne-
his style of martial arts. That was really nothing that we had seen at that point in a movie. And to some people, that means nothing, and
because it looks
that's
like
fine.
nothing on screen. There's a reason we
I
haven't seen
mean,
it.
if you look at some of those fight scenes from his early films, Out for Justice and Marked for Death, I mean, there's a real electricity to a lot of those fight scenes, and it's that was his appeal. It was just something we had not seen that style before, and it didn't last long, and
He got fat living
justifiably
close
so.
past.
Well, yeah, that was the end of it. But at that time, that's why people I think responded is because they just hadn't seen anything like that.
And Under Siege is
Maybe
like a really good film. It's actually quite well made, etc.
Yeah.
Good cast, well put together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Under Siege is a solid Die Hard rip, but even in that one, maybe I didn't see the really early Seagal stuff where he does something that is impressive, but it felt like even by the Under Siege films that whatever he's doing, I have no idea what it is. It looks like he's just sort of waving his hands around, and they're cutting around it in a way where I'm like, why just put a stuntman in there?
I can't really disagree. I don't think he's
No,
particularly impressive in most of those films.
check out the
And Arnold is
jewelry
not the
store
smoothest
fight in
operator
Marked
either.
for Death. Just go check that out.
Okay, I will. I will
Yeah.
look that up tonight. Yes.
So to tie this back to Arnold, I would say, Arnold didn't look that great in action sequences. In terms of, he looks very impressive as a specimen. In motion, he's not the smoothest operator.
He's not hand to hand. That's not his
No.
Yeah.
strength. No.
Yeah,
He's,
you don't really
he-
think of him in terms of great fight scenes.
No. Even like Stallone, has that, he could do those boxing scenes where he could throw a punch
Yeah.
that looked
Yeah.
kind of smooth and whatever. And you could say somebody like Tom Cruise that's made a career off just looking good while he sprints. And Arnold is an action hero. That's all he does, is what he does. And he's not that great at fist fighting or running.
No.
He doesn't move
or
fast.
jumping.
He's sort of a sedentary rock.
When you think of the best parts of his fight scenes, it's the one-liners. It's see you at the party, Richter. Let off some steam, Bennett. That's the stuff that's most memorable. The actual fights themselves are just kind of whatever.
I mean, he often doesn't exert himself much. He'll just quickly shut somebody down is the move. He'll punch someone in the throat and they go down, they drop. And that's what a badass
Throw a pipe
is.
through them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and there's exceptions, but none that you can point out to be like, you know what, he really, what a physical display in Running Man. It doesn't happen.
No, if you were gonna make a list of the 100 best fight scenes, I don't even know if Arnold would have one on there. I mean, it's just,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, he rides a motorcycle pretty damn well, stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah. He looks great. I mean, he always looks cool, and that was the appeal. But when it came down to just having great fight scenes, there's not that much when it comes to him.
That's not his thing. Yeah, holding a big machine gun,
right,
is his thing that he
Right.
does better than anybody.
Or a smoking shotgun. Yeah.
But yeah, well, I guess what I've weirdly talked myself into just now, I guess, is that maybe he's a better actor than I'm giving credit for, because he makes those action scenes work, and it's not really based on his physicality, even. I mean, or
well,
in a certain way, he makes action scenes work through his personality, I guess.
I mean, he's a limited actor. I mean, is the euphemism I've been using in this podcast. But the truth is, he really holds the screen. This is the key to his whole success, is that he has this charisma. And I mean, some of that comes from just looking like a ridiculous thing that isn't a person.
Yeah.
That helps him. That makes him more interesting. He's somebody that you can't really look away from, that you are invested in for some reason, even as there is a level of unreality to him. And that's kind of what's so cool about him. And maybe it's the fact that he goes so much farther in that direction than any of these other characters, like Tom Cruise, Will Smith, people that are still recognizably human. That is why I find him so compelling and watchable in these films. And
he is hard to look away from. You're right about that. Whatever you want to call that, charisma, magnetism. He's got something there.
Next year, 1988. Bit of a down year. Red Heat and Twins come out this year. I have not much good to say about Red Heat. It is.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It is a
Have not seen it.
it's a Walter Hill film. It is an attempt to do 48 hours
Yeah.
with Arnold and Jim Belushi.
Mm-hmm.
And you run into a problem here. Jim Belushi is not Eddie Murphy, and
Hmm.
that's really evident really fast. I guess if you're a Belushi fan, it's one of his better ones, I guess. But really, it's not. It doesn't work. Having Arnold play a
No.
Russian is fun in theory. They don't make much of it.
It,
It's yeah,
well, yeah.
I
What's really disappointing is that it's from Walter Hill, who did 48 Hours, and so again, it's Arnold working with somebody who knows how to make these kind of movies, and it never is as good as you think it should be.
yeah.
It just the whole thing is way more plain, and I mean I love the villain in that is an actor Edo Ross, who has some great moments in Lethal Weapon and The Hidden, and it's cool that he got his kind of big shot to be the main villain in one of these, and it just the whole thing is just kind of it's really unfortunate because it's probably the movie of Arnold's that I wish I liked more, but it just never. It's one I'll probably watch like at least every 10 years, and I keep thinking, okay, I'm gonna like it this time, and it just always comes off as a misfire.
Yeah, I mean, it's on paper, it's the right move, and it just doesn't
Right.
connect, which is bound to happen. I mean, his hit ratio here as we go through these, I'm just like, oh, pretty good. Most of these are hits,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, throw this in the pile with Red Sonja, I guess, is the only thing I would compare it to. I guess like it's fine, but not really.
Yeah. It just doesn't. It
well, you say that
doesn't.
on paper though.
Yeah, on paper, it's not a bad idea. I mean,
Oh
Well, I think
no.
what's interesting when you also said that I haven't seen Red Heat, so I don't know what the movie's like. But next to Twins, it seems like this is pretty late in the '80s, and he realized it was like overdue for him to do a buddy comedy, and so he did two of them in 1 year.
Well, that's
mhm.
what's interesting about Red Heat is it's the first buddy action movie that he really had done, and he's making it with a guy who made one of the most celebrated buddy action movies,
Yeah,
and all of that looks good on paper, but it does not translate at all.
And you got to
yeah.
play an
Jim Belushi
impression.
though,
You got
Danny DeVito is a better foil than Jim Belushi
well,
for him. I mean,
Oh
yes.
yeah,
I mean,
yes,
honestly, Red Heat would be better if DeVito played the cop in it. That would just be a better
yeah.
movie for sure. Uh,
I mean, how many Jim Belushi roles are there that wouldn't be better with Danny DeVito? I would take Thief with Danny DeVito in that role. Actually, as much as I love Thief as it is,
no
DeVito
way,
would
no
bring
way
some.
DeVito could have carried Mr. Destiny. Would not have
I
happened.
cannot refute that
I mean, we're
No.
talking about
for reasons I'm sure you can guess.
DeVito was hot in the '80s, man. He was starring in
He
movies.
was. Oh yeah, it's
DeVito,
huge.
like talk about like
DeVito's great. I love DeVito.
he should come up
Yeah.
when we talk about comedy villains. His work in Ruthless
Yeah.
People is really good. But
Romancing the
yeah,
Stone.
yeah, he's always fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's fun in Twins. I guess I don't
He
much
is.
like Twins, but the two of them, basically, I think that DeVito and Schwarzenegger kind of carry that thing across the finish line, like just on nothing but themselves. Like
Yeah.
it's purely their presence in that.
Yeah, I remember nothing about the story of that movie, but I have a vaguely kind of like, that was kind of a fun time thing. Just remembering scenes of them like alone together, just bantering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think
And just basically DeVito reacting to what a weird alien he is,
I think my
He's got
greatest memories of Twins is I like the shot early on, and they did this, both Arnold and Sly kind of would take these little shots at each other in their movies, and there's the shot of Arnold walking along the street, and he sees a big kind of standee or poster of Sly from Rambo 3, and he just kind of looks at it, and then he kind of flexes his own muscles, and he just kind of waves his hands. Whatever, this guy. I mean, so that was kind of funny. And then I also remember, and this kind of shows you how little I just don't think much of the actual movie. But when they started playing Twins on on broadcast television, they did this whole little jingle where they kind of did the old theme to the. Now this is real old man talk right here. I never watched this show, but I'm gonna sound like I'm 80 here. But they did the old theme to the Patty Duke show, but they changed all the lyrics to fit around Arnold and Danny DeVito, and for some reason that little jingle advertising that it was finally going to air on broadcast TV has stayed in my head to this day.
I hate when that sort of thing happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just oh shit, I remember this the rest of my life for no reason at all. I,
Yeah.
I
Well,
actually
there's.
have a similar thing with the Patty Duke theme song, but it's a Nick at Night ad.
Oh, okay. Well, I know
Yeah.
at one point they say like and Danny is so short and round and genetically unsound.
A Danny is short and round and genetically
Yes.
unsound. Yeah, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
That's
great.
oh,
Yeah.
that's harsh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the entire premise of Twins is harsh.
Yeah,
Like
it's kind of a gauntlet of humiliations for DeVito, as I recall. Isn't Marshall Bell the villain in it?
yeah.
Yeah, he is.
But I think the thing I love about DeVito is that life and his entire career has been a gauntlet of humiliations in that regard, and he's never shied away from it.
Oh no, he turned it into
That-
a win.
He's been shamed to fortunes beyond our wildest dreams.
And he's never done it by way of being like, no, I'm not actually a weird little troll. He's
No.
just been like, yeah, I am, and so what? I'm going to
Yeah.
do other stuff, this other thing. Too.
Sometimes literally, yeah. He goes
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the foot on the gas here. We're getting some time on the clock. 1990.
89.
Everything's falling into place here. Total Recall comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Kindergarten Cop comes out. Same year. What a year. We've
Yes.
talked about Kindergarten Cop and how great it
Yes.
is and crisp. And, it's a beloved classic. Everyone thinks so. Total Recall, though. Same deal, right? Just
Well,
Yes.
one more thing about Kindergarten Cop. I don't know. It's a beloved classic that everybody really likes to like sit down and watch,
Yeah.
but it was the meme worthy Arnold movie
oh yeah.
before
Well,
the internet came
yeah.
around. Like it was in 1990. It was the memes. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Oh, you've heard
And
the Arnold soundboard calls, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much
yeah,
all
and I think
Kindergarten
Kindergarten Cop is
Large.
it's like way more represented in there than Predator. You know?
Yes. And it's the fun of him playing a regular person. I mean, not really,
Yeah.
because the entire premise is like, what if Arnold had to teach kindergarten? And
Right.
that's ridiculous, of course. So,
But it's the time when finally they're like, okay, the premise of putting Arnold undercover is inherently ridiculous, and so the movie's built around that. And
yes.
I my buy-in is there, I guess.
It's a lot of fun. I love that they shot it in Astoria, Oregon. I always remembered when I've been to that school. Whenever
Oh,
I would
wow.
do the Seattle to LA corridor, you drive right through Astoria, and we definitely took a one-time trip into Astoria just to go see the Kindergarten Cop school.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pee in those urinals
Yeah, it was
if you're there.
fun. Yeah, a pilgrimage, if you will. Yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe this is because this was a movie from my family that we watched on VHS all the time, and while we were eating McDonald's takeout or whatever. This is one of those totemic roles in my life. Kindergarten Cop. I could probably quote most of that film from memory at this point. So yeah, it's just one of my movies. I'm probably overvaluing it.
Right, Total Recall, I think you were more interested in talking about though.
Total Recall is a 5-star film. This is up there.
Oh,
with
yeah.
This is up there with Conan and the Terminators for me.
Yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
is Arnold in his prime and Verhoeven in his prime coming together and just making something that everybody should enjoy from here to eternity.
Mm-hmm. Masterpiece.
Yep.
The ending, wow. I'd never
Yeah.
seen something like that in a movie. I remember this distinctly. Coming out of the movie and being like, wait a minute. So
Yeah.
it was all a dream, and he just got lobotomized. That's what happened,
Yeah.
right? Having that realization after watching it, oh man, I was excited. It was so cool. I'd never seen a movie do that, especially not an
Yeah.
Arnold character. Like no,
No,
he
I
really
mean-
is just some dude. He's just a guy working construction who hates his life and he gets his brain scrambled by future
Yeah.
science. Yeah.
Well, it probably makes a little more sense that actually Arnold is what the regular dude working construction, like what he asked for his fantasy to be.
Yeah. Well, there's a meta element to it as well. Like that, of course, he's not this, he's not a regular person. Of course he isn't. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at him, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
There's no way he's just some guy. He's a galactic super spy. He's got to be.
Yeah. That's that is more plausible
Yeah.
than him just being a construction worker.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's also the film where he bores of his rich white wife to take up with a working class Mexican woman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is true. But um,
It
and
was
th- and then Sharon Stone, ends up she's the wife of Michael Ironside. That's believable.
Oh, yes, yes, she is.
You talk
Um,
about undercover.
he's great in it too. There's another
Oh,
great villain.
he's
Recall
fantastic.
has two great villains.
Oh,
Richter.
both. Yes. I mean, I could
Yeah.
go either way with Ronnie Cox or with Ironside. Even the dude, the great, yeah, the white haired guy too. He's awesome. Oh, I'm sure she hated every minute of it.
All right. Yeah, we're clearly on the same page with this one.
Oh,
Yeah, it's so
phenomenal.
good. It's so fun. I love that scene where the guy shows up and he's like, "No, I'm from Recall, and what's actually happening is you're
Yeah.
having a dream." And, like all that stuff. Like it's so smart as a screenplay. It is like a
Yes.
commentary on Schwarzenegger films. It is, and it's just wildly entertaining. It works if you figure out what's going on. It works if you don't. It is such creative sci-fi too. Like all the sci-fi ideas in it are like really well articulated in an economical way.
Oh.
There's 1,000 memorable moments. It's an A+. It's a 5-star film. It's
Oh yeah, and to be a little more lowbrow, when they use the one guy's body as a shield, oh, that's incredible.
yeah.
that's the part that stood out to me.
He just gets
I
torn
can't
apart.
naysay anything that you guys are going on about because I haven't seen Total Recall since I was like 14.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness, you
it's time
gotta
for a
check it
review,
out.
man. It
And I think I probably didn't recognize a lot of the more satirical. I think maybe I was just like getting to a point where I was like, all right, I'm already like a little fed up with Arnold stuff, and like the human shield thing stood out to me as like that is a ridiculously callous thing to do and all that. And I don't know
that's
that I credited it for like the
that's what Paul
satirical
Verhoeven
element.
does. His whole career is ridiculously callous. That's
yeah,
that's
excess.
the whole thing.
And I don't think I recognized the intentionality behind that when I was 14 the way that I might now.
There is that was the thing that turned my dad off in a big way. He was like, "Oh, he almost took me out of the theater for that one."
What?
Yeah,
No, that was what my dad said. We have to see it again tomorrow.
yeah. Well, he
We're
was
going
getting into it.
back.
I mean, I've talked about this, I think, with you before, Chris, was getting pulled out of Ricochet, the John Lithgow film.
Oh, that's unfortunate. That's
They yanked me out of there. Yeah, there was
oh.
too much violence.
Was it?
I think it was table saw to the chest. They were like, "Oh, no more Ricochet for you." And
So wait, so they were okay with when they give Denzel the clap, but it was it was
I think
maybe
that happens
maybe
later.
that
I think that
is
happens
later.
after the
Yeah,
fact. Yes, they
that's
wouldn't have been
after
okay with that. Yeah,
that's after the parole board scene. That's Lithgow's greatest moment.
I was not pulled out of the theater, but my first R-rated movie that I saw in the theater was Terminator 2, and I remember my mother reaching over to cover my eyes during the like nuclear nightmare sequence.
worth
Oh,
of
doing.
that.
Fair enough.
it's a pretty wild sequence. That's,
Yeah.
Terminator 2 is the next film, by the way, 1991.
Yeah.
And
There we go.
yeah, I mean, what else can you say about that one? It's as good as they say. It's fantastic.
yeah, we're coming
Yeah,
up on
love it.
30 years.
A generational film.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just it's as good now as it was then. Yeah, I mean I don't even know what more I can say about it. It's just such an entertaining film.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
and
And it's like we said before, it's one of the two movies where they actually created a villain capable of going toe to toe
it's
with
a
Arnold.
fine villain. The one thing that I think really happens here that really works for Terminator 2, but I think ultimately becomes a bit of an albatross for him is the addition of Edward Furlong as John Connor makes him such a successful like children's entertainer. Like he's so good paired with that kid that
Well, and it's sort of a continuation from Kindergarten Cop, I guess.
yeah, to some extent, yeah. I mean, he's definitely making an effort at this point to be more of a PG-13 guy than an R guy.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah, this
that ends
one
up being a problem.
for minus a few moments, this could have been PG-13. They just you take away some of the T-1000 kills, and you pretty much would have a PG-13.
That's key to how good the movie is, though.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that the T-1000 is in an R movie, and Arnold is trying to be in a PG-13 movie, and that's what makes him more, sympathetic and appealing. And
Yeah, I mean, it works totally is the thing, and it made all the money in the world. So they were clearly like, okay, well, he's now now not limited to the R-rated market, and he's nailed these comedies. or at least they were successful enough. And so now he is going to have to be one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, and that means PG-13. That means 4-quadrant. That means, we have to make sure his appeal is as wide as possible. And he makes a few more R-rated movies, but for the most part, they are kind of watered down stuff. We're talking Batmans and Robins and The Sixth Day. PG-13 action movies. Kind of. There's high points after this. True Lies is pretty fun. That's a pretty fun R-rated movie. You said Eraser, that's coming in here, but
End of Days is one where Satan himself, played by Gabriel Byrne, is still not like a good enough match for Arnold.
Yes, that's correct.
Gabriel Byrne is fantastic in that movie. He is so much fun as Satan. He is just having a blast.
It is the high watermark, though. T2 financially, it's all kind of a downhill after that. Even with
because he follows this with. I mean, he has his biggest triumph with T2, and I feel like at that point, even though Last Action Hero isn't very good, it was like the critics were ready, and like society was kind of ready to knock him down at this point. And he gave them a movie that made it easy to do, to knock him down, and that's what happened with Last Action Hero. And then having it come out a week after Jurassic Park was also a bit of a misguided ploy.
I mean, that's a mistake, but I also think maybe that the response was sharpened by, like, you're right, maybe society and the critics were ready to move on from Arnold, and then he presented them with something where, like, he was already, like, ahead of that and satirizing himself, and maybe there's the critics being like, no, I wanted to make fun of you. I didn't want you to make fun of you. Like,
they also run into trouble with the kid, too. I mean,
he was horrendous.
The kid in Last Action Hero is everything that Edward Furlong was not.
But this is the one, John. Is this the guy earlier when we said I had one more villain to talk about? I wanted to say Charles Dance.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. He's super fun in it. That's true. He's very good in it. There's good things in Last Action Hero.
And I guess so what's his name? Tom
Noonan. Noonan, right?
Yeah, Tom Noonan. Yes, Dollar. I wanted to call him Tom Dollarhide, but. Two good villains in Last Action Hero, despite it being, the movie that I say all Arnold movies are to me.
You had F. Murray Abraham also was a villain in it.
That's right.
Yeah. He doesn't compare.
No. And that jerk of a cartoon cat.
Voiced by Danny DeVito.
MC Scat Cop. What a jerk.
It is interesting that, like, the kid in Last Action Hero, for some reason, we all hated him, but like that was the kid that I was. I wasn't John Connor. I wasn't a cool kid on a dirt bike breaking into ATMs. I was, I was like, I gotta go see the new Arnold movie, Mom. That was who I was, and I hated that kid.
Well, I think Shane Black. I've read like one of those oral histories of Last Action Hero, which is. It's one of those movies. It's more fun to read about than to watch the movie. And there's a lot of great stuff out there on Last Action Hero. And his line on the kid Austin O'Brien is one of the great misfires of Western civilization. Was his casting?
That's brutal. That's brutal. Shane Black.
I kind of respect about Shane Black that he was so convinced that the casting was a problem there and not him, that for Iron Man 3 he inserted another kid sidekick just to be like, no, I can make this work, really, let me direct it. And it does.
Okay, so I mean that's the 80s run. That's up to the top of the mountain, and and we've kind of talked about most of the things that happened after that as well now. So I guess we can wrap this up. We're at an hour and a half. Let's finish though with Mount Rushmore of Arnold performances. What are the four?
So we're going performances and not actual films. We're going performances. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, yes. Arnold performance / character / what he brings to the show.
Okay, I will go first.
Should I go first since I'm the one who is into this?
Sure. Yeah, you go first. You go first.
That's
the obvious one.
Okay. Terminator. I suppose you use Terminator 2 model of his head for it.
The buzz cut and the sunglasses. Yeah.
Yeah. John Matrix, Conan the Barbarian, and I was about Now I'm second guessing myself.
Mm.
Do we just do pumping iron? I mean, that doesn't make sense. No, you got Conan up there already.
Oh, you can't even pick one of the.
I guess I mean I want to say kindergarten, like John Kimball, but doesn't he look just? I mean, no, it's Predator, I guess. What did I talk about?
Sure. Okay.
Those are the most obvious ones, I guess.
I got yeah, T-800 Terminator 2 model for sure. Conan Barbarian for sure. I have Total Recall Arnold, and in the sculpture up on the mountain, it is the the bug-eyed,
oh yeah,
oxygen deprived Arnold face. For sure.
Great call.
Or maybe it's him pulling a probe out of his nostril. I don't know. Maybe that's the other face up there.
If we can do that, I want to switch my last one to the face he's pulling when the piece of the elevator breaks off and he's falling in Last Action Hero. He's like looking at the piece in his hand and letting it go.
And then yes, for my final face is going to be. I mean, it's not his best film, but Kindergarten Cop has this place in my heart. So yeah, I guess I agree with you, Al. Kindergarten.
Sorry, didn't take that away from you.
Well, I'm gonna go. Okay, basically my first three are not really anything all that out of the ordinary. I'll just go John Matrix. I'll go original Terminator T-800, and I'm gonna go with Total Recall Hauser / Quaid. So those I'll go with those for my first three. Now I'm gonna throw a little wild card for number 4. Number 4. Again, we're just going by performance, not actual movie, but whoever he played in Escape Plan, because he is awesome in Escape Plan. It's one of the few roles that is really not an Arnold role. I mean, that's the kind of character I could see a Christoph Waltz playing that character. I could see all kinds of other actors playing that character, and I think he's fantastic in it. So that I'm going to go with that. In terms of performances, I'm going to go with that as number 4.
It does bring up an interesting point, though, which is something that has kind of come into clarity as he's been, an ex-politician making movies again. He has gotten good at acting. He's like legitimately good at acting now, and he's very good in Escape Plan. He's kind of good in everything he makes now, even if the movies aren't great. He's really good in Sabotage. He's a talented actor at this point.
He's much better.
He just knows how to use his persona, how to deliver a line on camera. He just knows how to do that stuff. He's been at it so long. But
well, the broad source version of that is it took him 10 years to kind of figure out how to do comedy, and then he did 10 years of comedy, more or less. And that's a whole other skill set. And I guess that just goes back to what we were saying at the very beginning. Like, kudos to him. He sort of realized, or at least his representation, somehow danced through the raindrops of not trying to do more before he was ready.
He's the best thing in Dark Fate. I mean, that movie has a lot. That movie has a lot of bad. I mean, Linda Hamilton is horrendous in that movie. But everything with Arnold is pretty fun. It just takes forever to get to him. He's good. It's just the rest of that movie is just pretty bad.
All right. Well,
shall we get to the chopper?
Yeah,
that's right.
Get to the chopper. All right, thank you, Chris. We'll have you back for something at some point, I'm sure. But I'm glad you were here for this one. I needed you for this one.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. This is right in my wheelhouse.
I hope that we've convinced you, Al, to at least go take another look at Total Recall.
For sure,
maybe
100%.
Yeah. I just needed a nudge. I had an idea that it was good, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. I should do that.
All right. See you at the party.
Thank you.
Great smile, better butt. When I see her coming, I start howling like a mutt. I'm battling with this rattling inside of my heart. Just hope her temper doesn't split us apart. Cause a hard man knows that the soft woman's touch can move mountains. Here there goes a mountain. Yeah, okay. She's the only woman who can make my bed rock. Try to catch my breath, here comes the aftershock. Felt like dancing, so I asked her who I was flirting with a natural disaster. Parked my duck on the dusty trail, start shaking like a 7 on the Richter scale. She's laying underneath, but she's a gift from above, baby. She's my earthquake love. I worship the ground that she walks on. She's my earthquake love. Ooh, but she wrecked my whole world. She's my earthquake love. She cracked me right down to my foundation. She's my earthquake love. She's my earthquake love. Here she goes again. Okay, that was good. Yeah, that was perfect. The first take is the last take. Now I don't want to do it again.